All right, this is Chris Rubio of RubioLongSnapping.com, and I'm going to start doing player interviews with some guys just to let you know what their thoughts are, how they're doing things, and how they motivated themselves throughout life. First off, today we've got Reid Ferguson. Reid is a long time Rubio Long Snapper. He went to LSU on full scholarship, and now he is currently, obviously, you can tell, with the Buffalo Bills. Reid, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I just said before we even started the interview, I just want to do these with a couple guys, basically explaining how you have 24 hours in a day, right?
Right.
You don't have a magic lamp that gives you like 36 hours or 40 hours or anything like that. You have the same 24 hours that everyone else does, correct?
Absolutely.
And you found it somehow, some way, a way to go to college paid for. You're making, you're playing for the Buffalo Bills. You're doing very, very well. And so we're gonna just talk about that. Let's start from the basics, the beginning. When did you start snapping a football?
Started in 8th grade.
Okay.
My team needed one, so my dad and I talked about it. I wasn't playing a lot of defensive end, so I figured that would be a good way to get myself on the field. And yeah, 8th grade.
Okay. Do you find that happens a lot with long snappers where maybe you're not the greatest defensive end, defensive lineman slash offensive lineman? So hey, let's try long snapping, see how it works.
Right. Yeah. I think that's kind of gotten to be a big trend as of late, especially I could see it firsthand with guys here in the NFL, tight ends or linebackers, or maybe some of the more flexible offensive linemen. They have approached me to maybe teach them a little bit, show them how to snap a little bit, just because if they are a fringe guy on the roster, or somebody that is a young guy and they want to make sure they prove their value to the team, that's always something that they can also throw in there. Hey, I play tight end. I'm such and so, I'm so good at tight end, blocking, receiving, whatever, but I can also snap in case of emergency.
Yeah, it just gives them one more facet that makes them a stud, basically.
Right.
When what do you have any wild memories of snapping in high school? I know you played for Buford High School.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously a big time high school out in Georgia. The lineage of Rubio Long Snappers there from Blake to Mad Dog. It just keeps on going and
Yeah.
going and going. Any wild memories playing there?
I guess wild, also exciting, would be winning a state championship my sophomore and junior year, and then also going to the state championship, but we lost my senior year. So just kind of being real successful in high school, that was, of course, very fun and thrilling to be a part of. But yeah, definitely snapping in those high pressure games before I had to go snap at LSU. So
Got it. Speaking of LSU and state championship games, what's the most pressure filled snap you had? Was it your first high school snap or college snap? I don't know if you want to talk about that. I do remember that clearly.
yeah,
Or was it your first NFL snap? What is it?
I would say that the NFL snaps, the first ones last year during the preseason, kind of definitely take precedent. But in terms of my time at LSU, I would definitely say, I believe it was my junior year. We played at Florida, night game, and we ended up beating them 30-27. Colby Delahousie, my kicker at the time, we hit a 50-yard field goal to win the game with time running out. So I would say that was probably the most pressure snap.
I got you. I got you. Do you
Sure.
have any pregame rituals?
I like to listen to just some chill music. I like to think, as a specialist, punter, kicker, snapper, wherever you are, you've got to keep a level head.
I
You
agree.
can't let the high get too high. You can't let the lows get too low. So you've got to kind of stay somewhere in the middle. So I like to listen to AC/DC, all that kind of stuff. But I also like to
Oh, that's not your pregame though.
no, not
I
pregame.
was gonna say because I would not count ACDC as
Yeah.
mellow.
No, not mellow, but yeah, just some classic rock, probably more on the mellow side.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Are you superstitious?
I would say I would lean towards yes, for sure.
Like you put on your right sock. Like I used to always have a pair of like athletic shorts on underneath my game pants. I don't know
Yeah,
why. It was just my thing. What do
yeah.
you have any superstitions that you have on game day?
Um, Definitely on game day, I have to. Obviously, I think everybody puts on their uniform and their girdle and all and socks and cleats and stuff the right way. But I think my superstition would probably be just my warm up, the way that I stretch and get myself ready, mentally as well as physically.
Okay. Let's talk about your first snap at LSU.
Yeah.
Okay, for a lot of people that don't,
I haven't had it in a while, but we can bring it up.
Just real quick, because I don't even know if you know this. When I do my camps, I always show a picture of a long snapper in 8th grade who has some of the worst form that I've ever seen. And I blur out the face not to embarrass. Say it again.
And he has on an orange shirt.
He has an orange shirt on. And I blur out his face not to embarrass him. And I pinpoint, oh my gosh, look at his feet, look at his hands, look at his back. Oh my, it's so bad, so bad. And then at the very end, I say, oh, by the way, this is the Buffalo Bills long snapper. And it's kind of built just basically to motivate him, because kids come to my camps and they look around at some of the other studs and they're, oh my gosh, I'll never get that way. It's like, dude, just take your time. It's patience. It's patience. It's so much form. And with you especially, I've written blogs on consistency, and you're like one of those guys that's a robot. I mean, you've been that way since probably sophomore year, where your snaps, you can just press play, press play, press play, and it looks like the same snap all the time. How do you maintain that consistency? Let's talk about that. And then how did you overcome your first snap?
Right. Okay. So in terms of the consistency part, I would say, and a lot of people have asked me over the years, interviews, friends, people I run into, how did you get into snapping? Tell me a little bit about what you do. And I really tell them that it has become somewhat of an art form. The amount of hours that you have to put in form, strength training, stretching, flexibility training, all of that stuff to really come full circle and complete yourself as a player. That takes time. And one thing my dad and I always talked about growing up, going through high school, going to your camps, was 10,000 hours. And you can think about that or read about it, I guess, in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers book. You don't become an expert at something until you've done it for 10,000 hours. So it's kind of that constant, that constant marathon, I guess you could say, to reach the hours and hours of practice and form work and all that kind of stuff to reach, that the level of consistency that you want to get to.
But I would also jump in and say, and I hope, let's see if you agree with me. It's not only 10,000 hours; it's 10,000 hours of doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
Because you get kids out there that go and they just snap, 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 and they don't realize you're getting worse because you're making your form worse over and over and over, instead of just working on technique, working on form. Let's get back to the basics so you have a consistent, beautiful snapping motion like you do. So all you have to do is essentially just put the ball in your hand and boom, it's perfection.
Right. I would say, on top of that, I would say, and it's one thing that my high school coach really drilled in our heads was, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So, that's just kind of something to keep in the back of your mind.
I would agree 1,000%. First snap at LSU, you're pumped up. You're in Death Valley. Everyone's pumped. Family's there. You get over the ball and
flies over his head. Not fun to say the least, but Jamie ran, he ran and picked it up and booted it down the field. Had a pretty good punt actually, so he kind of saved my butt on that one. But I came off the field and Coach Miles and Coach McGay, he just kind of smiled at me and they were like, "Hey, you've got." So I think I ended up somewhere with like almost 500 snaps in my LSU career. So they were like, "You're gonna have plenty of opportunities to." Prove yourself, and right, and I knew I was gonna back.
And coming from those two guys who I know personally, and they're both great coaches and great people, that's the best advice they could have given you at that time. Because if they came down and just, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that, you could have it could have been a turning point where you could have been crushed mentally as well as physically.
At 100%, for sure.
Good, good. Reid, what's your favorite pizza topping?
Oh man, I would say any kind of meat lovers pizza, bacon, sausage, ham, pepperoni, the whole 9 yards.
Got it. So just big caveman pizza.
Absolutely.
Where's your favorite burger place?
Probably a place called Burger Smith. It's down in Baton Rouge,
Ooh.
right off campus. They have some of the they have Parmesan duck fat fries that you can get
That's so
along with
Baton
your.
Rouge.
Oh yeah,
Is it air conditioned?
I probably yeah.
Okay, because you know how I feel about humidity.
Yes.
Okay, what's the major difference? You're born and raised. I don't know if you're born and raised, but you were born and raised in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference between living in Atlanta to Baton Rouge to now Buffalo?
I would say the major difference. Well, I would say okay. So going from Atlanta to Baton Rouge, that's something that my parents and I talked about. I wanted to go out of state for college. I felt like that would be big for my growth as a person, as well as playing football somewhere else, not close to home. So,
I agree.
in terms of growing as a person, Baton Rouge, has and will always be one of my favorite places ever. I learned so much going through college. So, in terms of that, I think growing as a person, Atlanta to Baton Rouge, and then difference from Baton Rouge to Buffalo is without a doubt the weather.
Is it cold there yet?
There was like no humidity, and not yet, which is surprising because when I was up here last year, um, I got back up here in November, and it had already snowed once or twice in October. So we'll have to see where this month goes. But yeah, definitely the weather.
Okay. Last year, you were on a team and then you got cut. A lot of guys could have just dropped down into the abyss of despair and depression. How did you allow yourself to not become depressed, not say, woe is me, and then just basically get back on that horse and earn the starting job?
So last year, like you said, I signed with Buffalo after the draft as an undrafted free agent. Spent all of the spring and summer with them, workouts, OTAs, and Trent went through training camp, played in 3 preseason games, and then got cut on the first cut downs from 90 to 75. So I think one of the big things that helped me with that was that in terms of dealing with that situation was just that I knew that I had a plan all along. I knew that I was good enough, and they brought me there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more, and you can kind of tell. I guess when you get to this certain level, you can kind of get a feel for what teams want to do in terms of contracts and injuries and all this kind of stuff. So, I felt good about the situation. I felt like I had a solid spring, summer, and training camp, and the games that I played with them, I felt like I showed them, the best that I had. And, it ended up working out for me. I stayed patient. I stayed, working out and snapping, August and September when I was home, or I guess I should say September, October when I was home. And November 1st of 2016, they ended up calling me back they brought me back and signed me to the practice squad through the end of the season. So I was up there for all of November, all of December through the end of the season. And, I felt like that was a really good time for me to grow as a snapper and also mentally in terms of getting used to how an NFL team operates.
Mm-hmm.
On a day-to-day basis in season, because training camp, OTAs is kind of a different animal. It's not the stress level is very low, and especially when you're on a team that's whether you're trying to make the playoffs, in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, there's different dynamics during the season that you kind of have to learn to deal with. And everybody has their own ways to deal with things. So in terms of getting that experience on the mental side, but also growing as a snapper. I was, snapper for all the scout teams and doing all that kind of stuff. So I got to go against the best guys every day. And I think that really helped me grow as a snapper and then, get me to where I am today.
So you were taking a lot of snaps during this whole time. And I'm a big proponent of this, and this from going through my camp so much. Technique, form over snapping. That's one of the things that I try to go over is drill, then snap, not snap, then drill. How much,
Right.
say, out of 100% of your day, of your practice day, would you say is geared towards technique slash form slash then towards snapping?
I would say it's probably 70-30 snapping.
Mm-hmm.
I would say as far as drill work, blocking work, even I work that in there. And then technique work, as far as I usually do a lot of technique work when I'm doing my warm up.
Got it.
That's mostly when I do a lot of that stuff, and then I do most of my snapping in practice. So I never try to snap a lot on any given day, just because, like you said, you don't want once you start snapping too much, your form starts wavering a little bit, and that's when you kind of start bouncing all over the place. So always try to stay fresh. Every day. Try to have a solid snapping day. Every day of practice.
Okay, so you're 23.
Yes.
Okay, 23. I have Reid Ferguson, age 18, right here. Just gets to LSU. What do you tell Reid Ferguson?
Oh man.
You got 2 sentences to talk to him. What would you say?
I would say one. Get yourself a quality routine that you can lean on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And I would say two, listen to your parents more, because they,
Okay.
they always know what's right.
It's odd that teenagers don't realize that their parents at one point were teenagers,
Right.
and that they've gone through the whole thing.
Right.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
I've got 23-year-old Reid Ferguson here. I've got 15-year-old Reid Ferguson here. So you're a sophomore in high school. What do you tell the sophomore?
Keep your head up. Stay confident. When I was a sophomore, I was backup on at Buford. That was when they had a senior there that was playing in front of me. So, it wasn't the easiest of situations to be in, because I obviously, as every snapper out there, they want to get out there and play. So just stay confident, and stick to your daily routine, stretching, drills, technique, snapping, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, you basically just answered the next question. I was going to say, looking back at your high school days, how would you approach your training both on and off the field different, knowing what you did know now, but you pretty much just said it right there. Snap with confidence, continue a good regimen. You seem like a
Right.
very, very, and I've known you since you were 14. Oh my God, almost 10 years. You're getting old, but I'm not. You seem like a very regimented person.
I would definitely say that.
You're the kind of guy that loves the schedule.
Absolutely. I do not like to wing anything.
So you would say you're very predictable.
Yes, definitely. You can ask Blake, mom, or my dad, and they'd probably tell you the same thing.
And I can see Blake being more the unpredictable one.
More than me, yes.
Yeah, okay, I got you. All right, man. Just to wrap up, Reid, what advice do you have for all the Rubio Long Snappers out there? Because we've been talking for 18 minutes and 26 seconds, which I cannot believe, because it seemed like 1 minute because you did so well. What advice do you have for the young Rubio Long Snappers out there?
I would say number one thing is, again, have confidence. Thinking back through my years, there is no one thing that is more important to a snapper's mental toughness than having confidence in himself to go out there and do the job, no matter what the situation is. So confidence is above and beyond the number one
I
thing.
agree.
I would also say, as I mentioned before, have a routine. Everybody, you've got to have something to lean on when things don't go right. When coach, mixes up the practice schedule, and you have, 20 minutes to warm up instead of 30 minutes before your period pump period starts. Whatever the situation may be, if something, if some adversity hits, you've got to be able to adapt and overcome it. So
okay, let me cut you off right now, because I know people are going to hear you say make a routine, and then they're going to ask me, and they're going to ask you a billion questions on, okay, what's my routine? Would you agree that everyone's routine is going to be different?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, and yeah, I mean, just from off the top of my head, Blake's routine is different than mine. So Yeah, everybody has their own. You've got to find what works for you.
Perfect. All right, man. Hey, Reid, I really appreciate your time. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time out there in beautiful Buffalo.
Yeah, no,
Who's your next game?
we're playing at Cincinnati this week.
Okay, but you still have decent weather.
Yes, should be nice.
All right, man. I hope to see you there. Everyone, this is Reid Ferguson of LSU and now the Buffalo Bills. Been with Rubio Long Snapping since he was 14. Good Lord. All right, man. Thanks for all your time, Reid. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.